This is Worldview on Spectrum TV. I am Emedion James. Studio time check, it's 2 p.m. Wednesday, the 17th day. And these are our main stories. Today, Donald Trump arrives in Britain for his second state visit, with both pageantry and politics on the agenda. In Europe, Yulia Navalnaya says independent foreign tests confirms her husband, Alexei Navalny, was poisoned and demands international accountability. We move to the Middle East, where Israel opens a new corridor out of Gaza City for civilians, a narrow 48-hour window as tank continues their advances. Stay with us as we bring you stories shaping global headlines. Many thanks for staying tuned. We begin in London, where US President Donald Trump arrived in Britain late on Tuesday for an unprecedented second state visit, at which the two nations will seal investment deals, a renewal of a special relationship Prime Minister Kirk'S is keen to champion. US Secretary Scott Bessent and British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves led events before Trump's arrival, announcing a transatlantic task force to deepen work between two of the world's largest financial centers. Trump would then be greeted by King Charles today for a day of pomp at Windsor Castle, a regal show of soft power that Starmer hopes will offer him protection from possible pitfalls during the trip. In the meantime, US President Donald Trump formally begins his unprecedented second state visit to Britain today with a royal pomp, a grand veneer to key diplomatic talks, and as difficult questions about Jeffrey Epstein lingers. The King and the Queen joins Donald and Melania Trump for a carriage procession through the grounds of Windsor Castle. The US President and King share one coach, while the First Lady and Queen Camilla share another. The US President and First Lady flew to Windsor and Marine One for their second UK state visit and were greeted off the helicopter by Prince and Princess of Wales as guards of honor welcome Trump. There will be a fly-past and state banquet later. Meanwhile, 4 people have been arrested after 6 images of Trump and late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were projected onto Windsor Castle. Britain say it will be the largest military ceremonial welcome for a state visit in living memory. Prompt is off. Oops. Elsewhere, the man suspect in the 2007 disappearance of British toddler Madeleine McCann was released from a German prison today after serving out a 7-year sentence for an unrelated sex crime. German prosecutors first named Christian Bolkener a suspect in 2020 when he was already serving a sentence for raping a 72-year-old woman in the same part of Portugal, Algarve, the region where McCann also went missing at the same time. Reporters saw a car leaving the prison. Bolkener's lawyer denies any connection with the McCann's case. He also did not immediately respond to a request to comment on his client's release. Bolkener, age 49, has convictions for child abuse and drug trafficking in addition to the rape of a woman who has since died. Away from that, Utah prosecutors vowed to seek the death penalty for the accused assassin of a conservative activist, Charlie Kirk, and also revealed new details of their case, including text messages in which he was alleged to have privately confessed to the fatal shooting. Tyler Robinson, aged 22, told his roommate and romantic partner when he was asked why he had committed the murder that he had enough of his hatred. According to the transcript of messages attributed to the suspect in court document filed by prosecutors, he is accused of firing a single rifle shot from a rooftop that pierced Kirk's neck last Wednesday on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, about 40 miles south of Salt Lake City. The Office of Utah County District Attorney Jeffrey Greer charged Robinson with 7 criminal counts on Tuesday, including aggravated murder, obstruction of justice for disposing of evidence, and witness tampering for asking his roommate to delete incriminating texts. In Europe, France socialists sought major budget concessions today from new Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, who needs support from another parties to pass laws in talks that would shape the final years of President Emmanuel Macron's second term. The Socialist Party has spent years on the political sidelines since Macron was elected president in 2017, but now holds leverage. Lecornu is meeting with party leaders across the political spectrum to try to get support from a fragmented parliament for his 2026 spending plans. Socialist Party leaders Olivier Faure said before meeting Lecornu that his party's demands would include an end to harsh budget cuts, fair contributions from the wealthiest, increasing purchasing power. Still in Europe, Yulia Navalnaya, the wife of late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, said 2 foreign laboratories had carried out tests on biological samples obtained from her husband that showed he was poisoned. Navalny died suddenly at the age of 47 on February 16, 2024, in a Russian prison in the Arctic Circle, depriving the Russian opposition of its most popular leader. Navalnaya has repeatedly accused Russia of killing him, an allegation the Kremlin dismisses as nonsense. President Vladimir Putin has said that before Navalny died, there had been plans to swap Navalny in a prison exchange with the West. Let's move now to the Middle East, where the Israeli military said today it was opening an additional route for 48 hours the Palestinians could use to leave Gaza City as it stepped up efforts to empty the city of civilians and confront thousands of Hamas combatants. Hundreds of thousands of people are sheltering the city, and many are reluctant to follow Israel's orders to move south because of the dangers along the road, the dire conditions, a lack of food in a southern area, and fear of permanent displacement. Local health authorities said that at least 30 people were killed across the Gaza Strip today in Israel's latest strikes, including 19 in Gaza City, a day after Israel announced the launch of a ground offensive to seize control of Gaza's main urban centers. Tanks had moved short distances towards the city's central and western areas from 3 directions, but no major advances was reported. In the meantime, Poplio today denounced the unacceptable conditions faced by Palestinians in Gaza, voicing solidarity with civilians and renewing his appeal for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. The Pope said in his weekly general audience at the Vatican, and I quote, "I express my deep closeness to the Palestinian people in Gaza, who continue to live in fear and survive in unacceptable conditions, forced once again to leave their land." Israel launched a major ground assault on Gaza City, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to flee their homes amidst what residents said was the heaviest bombardment in 2 years of war. The Pope renewed his call for a truce, for the freeing of hostages held in Gaza, and for a negotiated diplomatic solution to the conflict. He also urged the faithful to join him in prayer that the dawn of peace and justice may soon arise. In a related development, the European Commission today proposed They proposed to suspend free trade arrangement on Israeli goods due to the war in Gaza, even though the measure does not currently have sufficient support among the European Union countries to pass. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kirk'S also proposed a package of sanctions on 2 Israeli ministers, as well as violent settlers and Hamas members. Still in the Middle East, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is set to hold a call with British, French and German foreign ministers today as Tehran seeks to avert the reimposition of international sanctions over its nuclear program. A French diplomatic source said the call was aimed at discussing the impending reimposition of the UN sanctions by the European powers and to reaffirm conditions they have set for Tehran to enable that decision to be delayed. Tehran called today for a positive approach and goodwill by the European powers known as the EU3, which have initiated a 1-month process to reimpose sanctions on Iran that were lifted under a 2015 nuclear deal that unraveled after President Donald Trump pulled the United States out in 2018. The call, which will also include European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kirk'S, follows an agreement reached by Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency last week on resuming cooperation between the Tehran and the UN nuclear watchdog, including a principle that inspects the nuclear site. We'll take a break right now. When we return, we'll turn the spotlight to the Asian Pacific region and China. Just stay tuned. Many thanks for staying tuned on to Worldview on Spectrum TV. We turn the spotlight to the Asian Pacific region where Japan's Farm Minister and the chief government spokesperson joined the race today to lead the ruling party, pledging their candidacy in a vote set for early next month to replace outgoing Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. Ishiba announced his resignation this month to take responsibility for a series of bruising election losses that have made harder the task of choosing a leader for his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Farm Minister Shinjiro Koizumi told a press conference he had informed supporters over the weekend of his intention to run for the role, with Finance Minister Kensunobu Kato set to spearhead his campaign operation. The son of former Premier Junichiro Koizumi had some success this year in his talks of curbing soaring prices of rice. In South Korea, the leader of the Unification Church, Han Sang-je, appeared for questioning by prosecutors today over alleged involvement in bribing the wife of ousted South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yeol is part of criminal probe into the former first couple. Han declined to answer questions from reporters after the allegation was made, and also she arrived at the office of the special prosecutor. According to her, she said she has been very unwell when asked why she had chosen to respond to questionings after refusing early summons. Han, who is called the true mother by followers, is a widow of Unification Church founder Moon Suk-myeon, who died in 2012. Still in the South Korean region, South Korean Foreign Minister Chung Hyung said today he would be discussing Chinese President Xi Jinping's attendance at the summit of the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum hosted by Korea in late October during his visit to Beijing. At a meeting between Cho and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Wang said Beijing and Seoul were important trading partners and thus needed to boost exchanges, South Korea media reported. Cho said he hoped the bilateral ties could be more matured and deeper. The APEC summit could give a chance to further relations, according to media report. Meanwhile, before heading to China, Cho said he would be hearing from Chinese officials about a recent visit to Beijing by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to attend a World War II anniversary event. China is South Korea's biggest trading partner, but also a major backer for North Korea. In Africa, Chad's National Assembly has endorsed constitutional revisions that will extend the presidential term from 5 to 7 years and allow the president to serve an unlimited number of times. President Muhammad Idris Deby seized power in Chad after his father, long-serving President Idris Deby, was killed as he was visiting troops fighting militias in the north of the country in 2021. He claimed victory following a disputed election held after 3 years of military rule in May 2024. Parliamentary elections followed in December, granting the vast majority of seats to the ruling party. In a sad development, weeping relatives held funerals on Tuesday for loved ones at the sacred Hindu site in Nepal's capital of Kathmandu after the death in anti-graft protests last week that brought a change of government in the Himalayan nation. At least 72 people died in the unrest and the vandalism and arson that followed Gen Z's protests by young people frustrated at a lack of opportunities and perceived government lethargy, with more than 2,100 injured. Thousands of relatives and onlookers watched as smoke and ash wreathed the pyres of 4 cremated near the temple of Lord Pashupatinath in the capital, following Hindu tradition. A national flag was placed on each coffin while police gave them a guard of honor as a mark of respect. According to a mother, he said to his late son, he will never return now. She sobbed and held a framed portrait of her 18-year-old son, Rashid, who was killed in front of Parliament. But what really caused the protests in Nepal? In Kathmandu, the air was heavy with a mix of anger and exhaustion. It wasn't a fresh wound, but one that had been bleeding for years. Young people, students, job seekers, dreamers had been quietly losing faith in promises made by politicians. They saw schools lacking basic resources, healthcare that stretched too thin, jobs that paid too little or simply weren't there. Then came September 4th, 2025. The government quietly ordered that 26 big social media platforms registered inside the country appoint grievances officers, comply with stricter oversight. The platforms obviously could not meet up with the deadline set by the government. In response, the government blocked them. For many young Nepalese, this ban was the final straw. Social media wasn't just entertainment to them. It was a connection to friends abroad, to news, to jobs, to seeing what their peers in other countries were achieving or complaining about. So when the ban hit, those feelings exploded. The protest started mostly online with outrage spreading fast. Then, people poured into the streets in Kathmandu and many other cities. Young voices, loud and determined, started the protests. They weren't just angry over the social media ban. That was just the spark of everything. These and many more drove the youth in Nepal into a massive protest, a belief that their country's leaders had broken the compact that leadership was supposed to serve. They also felt that the leadership was not accountable and wasn't creating enough opportunities. Clashes followed as protesters gathered. Authorities tried their best to hold them with curfews, barriers, force, but it fell to no. Protests turned violent, buildings were set on fire, confrontations with police, injuries, and sadly, death. The government, under growing pressure, lifted the ban on social media. The Prime Minister resigned, but these actions were significant and didn't erase the deeper discontent. What this movement, according to the young people in Nepal, showed is that young people in Nepal aren't just reacting to one policy, they were reacting to a system, to a sense that governors has repeatedly failed them. The failure to provide jobs, the perception of corruption, the feeling that decisions are made without input or welfare in mind. The social media ban was the match, but the wood had been dried for a very long time. Under growing pressure, the government lifted the ban and Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal resigned. Still, analysts warn the crisis is far from over. The protesters say reflect deeper anger at systemic failures in governance and a generation unwilling to remain silent. That's all we have for you today on Wealthy on Spectrum Television. We've brought to you global stories shaping politics, security, and human lives from London to Moscow and Gaza to the wider world. Join us again next time for more insight and analysis. I am Emedion James and thank you for watching.